No, it's lovely to get a chance to speak to you, and fantastic, isn't it, having Zoom though, so that we can do that
Yes,
no matter where we are.
definitely.
So
Yeah, Zoom's helped out a lot this last especially the last year, because I didn't realize it'd be this long before I saw anyone from home. So actually, like, having Zoom has mean I have been able to see people, even if it's virtually, you know.
Yeah. So were you in
So,
Uganda when everything kicked off? Is that?
Yes. Yeah. So I originally came in August 2019. And the plan was to stay for anything between like 6 months and 2 years. And I hadn't really decided exactly how long. I thought it'd be over a year, but I wasn't really sure. But I had, like, my mum and dad were coming in June to visit me. I had quite a few friends who'd actually, like, they'd all booked their flight tickets.
Yeah.
And then obviously in March, and especially in Uganda, everything happened very quickly. So, like, in Uganda, we found out the borders were closing. We were given less than 24 hours before they closed.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just left. My old housemate left because she didn't want to be stuck here. But I decided to stay because there was nothing really that I'd be doing at home. Whereas here, especially like at the baby's home I'm at, like, they shut the gates to outside volunteers, visitors. Like, I moved into the compound for 4 months and we literally had just had not all of the staff could stay because they wanted them to stay inside the compound.
Yeah.
And obviously some of them have young children, they can't leave their families. So it was kind of not really a difficult decision in the end, because I knew that if I moved to Sanyu, I'd be useful. And actually it was really nice in a way, although I did miss seeing everyone. And also it was kind of nice being in the bubble of normality, because we just did everything as normal for the children's sake, whereas obviously outside everything was very different. So
and closing the compound will have made it safe, I would guess. You've not.
Yes, definitely. They kept it. No one came in and out, apart from, we did actually have a few like emergency hospital admissions, which was not ideal during that time, but they all did okay. And we're right next door to the local hospital, so it's not as if we had to go far. But they kept the same, like, limited staff for about 2 months, and then they let a few come back, but again didn't let people like travel in and out. So those people came back, I think it was like the middle of May last year, and then we had like a slightly bigger cohort of people who lived on site. And then in June, July time, they eventually started letting the staff move out and come back again, because it wasn't, a lot of the staff hadn't seen their family for months. They were always working. They needed to be a little bit of normality, because it's not a situation that they knew, it wasn't a situation that was going to end like anytime soon. So they had to kind of, allow a little bit of normality. But it was only literally last month that visitors and like volunteers have even been allowed back. And that's only if they're wearing a mask, and like they're not really allowed to interact with the children for very long. So, has changed a lot.
Yeah. So I've sort of launched in without doing the formal bit, but so Emily, I am very delighted that we've been able to make a very special international Lundie Award for the work that you've been doing. You were nominated last month for it, and we felt that really it needed to stay within the synod, because that's how we've been working. But we all agreed that we really wanted to do something in recognition of what you're doing, the amazing stuff you're doing, and the impact that you must be making there. So we had a conflab, and we decided that we would make a special international Lundie Award, especially for you. So,
thank you.
So yes, because we were really, really impressed and inspired by what you're doing. So can you tell us a little bit about why you were nominated and why you got involved in what you're doing?
So I first came to Uganda in 2015, and spent my summer here for 3 months, and fell in love with Uganda. And I was volunteering at Sanyu Babies Home, which is the oldest babies home in Uganda. Looks after up to 50 children in between the ages of 1 day old and 4 years old. And it's for some children, they spend just a few days at SANU, and others they spend almost 4 years. It just depends on their family situation, because the home aims to reunite children with existing family members like grandparents or aunties, uncles. And if that's not possible, then they find a foster family in the local community. So after I went in 2015, I fell in love with Uganda. And so I saved my money up, like from small babysitting things like that, while I was in my first year of university. And I went back in 2016, did the same in 2017. And then when I left in 2017, I decided that the next time I come, I want to come for longer. I want to come for like more than 3 months. So I knew that I had to save up longer for that. And I knew that it wasn't just a few babysitting jobs that would save me the money to live here, because I don't get paid as a volunteer. So it's all like living from my savings. So I worked for a year as a teaching assistant in the UK, and in a special school. And I did a lot of babysitting, anything, and I saved all of my money, and then moved over here in August 2019. And it's actually, I just worked it out, it's actually 21 months today since I left the UK, because I left on the 15th of August.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's gone fast. So, and I think if COVID hadn't come, I may well have not still been here, because my plan was to stay until like everyone I wanted to have visited me can visit me. Yeah. And also there's quite a few projects we've kind of started up in the baby's home that I've taken a lead on. So I wanted to kind of stay until those had settled, but not stay forever, because they can't be dependent on me, because I'm not here forever. But obviously no one's been able to visit me. And actually a lot of the projects we've been doing were kind of put on hold because they relied on other like day volunteers coming in. They relied on us being able to take the children out. So it's like, if I'd left before now, it would have seemed like I hadn't finished what I came here to do. Yeah. And it would have seemed a very like abrupt ending to like what's been quite a long time here now. So I think originally I was planning to leave last Christmas. So I'd be here for a year and kind of 4 months, 5 months, but I'm still here. So.
And what are your plans? Are you thinking that you'll stay on to see those projects to fruition, or? I think finally people have been able to start booking their flights. Well, planning when to book their flights, obviously depending on government announcements. And kind of after waiting this long, obviously I know not everyone will be able to visit me, but I want like my mum and dad, if possible, to be able to visit me, because kind of I'm living here now. I've got my own apartment, you know, I have a life here, rather than just staying in a guest house and being like a normal volunteer. Like they don't call me a volunteer at the baby's home anymore. I'm called their adopted child, because they said they can't call me a volunteer because I've been here for so long. It seems like I'm just, you know, do what everyone else does, which I don't. Awesome family.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever people like, whenever they introduce me to someone, they have to say, this is our baby, this is our adopted child. And some of the like projects we've been doing now, volunteers are starting to come in, then we can slowly start to make the transition now from me organising things to like the teachers at home organising things. And then hopefully, so I think for the moment, I've not got any plans to leave yet. My work permit, like I've got a voluntary work permit, and that will run out in September. So I think by August, I'll have to decide whether I'm leaving in September or whether I'm extending till maybe Christmas. I don't think I can really stay past Christmas, but like it would, you know, I think at the moment it's very hard to tell. We don't know when or if people will be able to come, and it's hard, and especially like in Uganda recently, the cases are increasing. So whether that's going to put us into another lockdown, we don't know yet. So it's quite hard to plan at the moment what's going to happen, but I've got no plans to leave yet.
No. So tell me a little bit more about these projects that you're
so I help out a lot in the class, so in like this little school at the baby's home. So all of the children, once they can sit, they start attending class in the morning. So the youngest class are just babies, they've just learned to sit, so they go there when they're about 8 months old till about 18 months old, because it's a chance for them to have something different in the day. Like these children spend all day, every day in the same compound. Many of them, especially because of COVID, have literally never left the home. Unless they've been seriously ill, they've never left the home, because everything is in the same compound. So when they go to class in the morning, it gives them something different for the morning, and it also gives the caregiving staff a chance to catch up with other things, have a little bit of a break, tidy up, make the beds, because if they have the children all day every day, it's that, you know, the children are just all in the same space. So the baby class, they kind of have some toys, they like sing songs, and like the teacher drums with them, and they like watch music on the television. And then there's the middle class where they like the focus is like potty training, learning how to hold a crayon, learning how to like build a tower with blocks, things like that. And then the oldest class, they do they start learning how to write. They can like start learning colors, counting, shapes. And so there's 3 teachers, and they do amazing jobs. But it is very difficult for them. You know, they've got so many children of a very varying age. For example, the oldest class has probably got, the youngest child is only just 2, I think, and then the youngest child is only just 2, and the oldest one is 4 or just over 4, and is a very bright and able child. Trying to fit activities for all of those is difficult, especially if you focus along the academic route. So something I've been doing since virtually I came is doing like one-to-one sessions with the children. So before COVID, it was me, I'd organise them, but like other people would help out with the sessions. And then obviously over the lockdown, it was just me. But now we're slowly being able to have other people help. But we do, with the babies, we do like messy play, things that wouldn't be possible in the main classroom. So we do things like playing with like cooked spaghetti, yogurts, flour, and also just having like a couple of toys that we wouldn't, you know, if there's a nice new toy, they all want it in the main classroom. If it's in one-to-one, they can all play with this cool toy and no one fights. And they get that interaction with you. And we found, like, I've seen a lot of the babies start to say things like, I'm fine, because in Uganda, something that everyone says is you always greet, so you always say, how are you, when you see someone. And then the response is almost always, I'm fine. People don't go into if they're actually fine, but the response is, I'm fine. So one of the first things our babies learn is if we say, how are you, they say, I'm fine. So in one-to-one sessions, that's for the first time I've seen a lot of them try and speak, is because they've got that interaction. So that we do, so with that, so I usually work with each kind of child once a week. So we do each class 1 day a week, so there's 3 days of one-to-one. And with the middle class, we do a lot of like fine motor skills, like putting like things like beans or rice in a bottle, like building towers with pegs. And for them as well, like they really value that one-to-one time and just having the time to be like the center of attention, because they don't, when you're one of 50 children with, you know, 5 caregiving staff and then like some cooking staff, some laundry staff, you don't get that, especially when you've got 1-day-old babies to contend with that need that full-on care, you know. So so we also do some like art things like painting, things like that would be difficult for a teacher to do with 16 like 18-month-olds. That'd be near impossible to do painting, because you can just imagine the state that everyone would end up in. I'm enjoying imagining the scene, but but whereas in one-to-one we can do things like painting, and actually like the children find it a lot easier to paint than to do kind of like colouring with a crayon, for example, because painting's a lot more, you can see the effect of it straight away with the crayon, whereas with the crayon you have to push quite hard, things like that. So, and they enjoy kind of just doing, you know, sometimes we'll have something like, I'll have like toilet paper tubes, and we'll just do like put them in paint, and then they can put rings over the paper, and we let them do their thing. If they want to do it all in one space, and they do, like we let them be creative, which is something that when they're all in class together, it's just so difficult for the teacher to do, you know, especially when like, because that's the potty training class, like they go to the potty every like 20 minutes. So trying to do a proper activity with like messy things, they can't do because they can't leave the materials, but they have to take the children to the potty. And then with the older class, we do a lot of creative things as well. And like a lot of colouring, painting, making pictures, using stickers, but and still do like some fine motor skills tasks, because the older ones are learning to write, but the younger ones still need to like make their hands strong. And then we work on like what the teachers have been doing. So if the child's like learning to copy letters, then we might like copy their name with them. So I never teach them anything like that, because I'm not a teacher. And even if I was, they'd learn different in Uganda than they did in the UK. But the teacher says to me, okay, this child is just learning to copy their name or is just learning to trace their name. So maybe if you're like colouring a picture of an elephant with them, if you write their name at the top, they can copy it, and then they're continuing what they've learned in class. Because some of the children are great in class at learning kind of the academic things, but a lot of them don't cope with all of the noise around them, the fighting for the teacher's attention. And it's been really interesting to notice the children that kind of don't cope so well in class, and maybe if the teacher asks a question, they don't come forward to answer it. In a one-to-one session, they flourish. We see a completely different side to them because they've got that time. So I've been doing those sessions since like the month after I arrived, and the plan was to kind of move them over to the teachers, but because we've had no other volunteers here, I've obviously just carried on doing them. You know, and it's hard because the teachers know me very well and they're used to me like organising things. It's harder for them to tell me things, whereas if it's a new volunteer, they're very good at telling them what to do. So we're going to make that transition. We've also been working on like having a theme for each month for the class, because it means that the class, like the younger children and the older children, can kind of all do the same activity. And we've been working on doing things like the children doing more active things, and like not just listening to something if they're learning about it, but going and finding leaves or going and looking at the chickens in the compound, things like that. So they're actually physically doing things. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time with the teachers working on that. We've had like a lot of planning sessions. We're making a book of information for them so they can, you know, they have their own curriculum now. So we spent a lot of time working on the themes to make it kind of easier for them to plan. And because these children are still young, like they don't need, like until they're about 3.5, 4, they don't need any of the writing things. They just need like the learning things, and they need class to be kind of different from the rest of the day, because the rest of the day they do spend doing the same things. So we're trying to kind of get the, you know, the mornings to be exciting, and then to be like seeing different things. And we have seen a difference, because almost every day the older children will come up to me and say, I want to shade. So shading is what we call like colouring here. So they'll say, I want to shade a rhino, I want to shade a car, I want to shade a lorry. And they'll just be coming up with all these things because they have learnt about them. And before we never had that, you know. So they are, and they have an interest in their learning. They request what they want to do, and they'll come and tell me. They'll tell their teacher what they want to do. And we've done a lot of cooking. So like one of the other members of staff will come and teach them how to make mandazi, which are like Ugandan donuts. So they'll, you know, the children learn all the ingredients. The children help to make the make the dough, sometimes help to make the shapes of the food we're making, and then we'll watch it being cooked and we'll get to eat it. So it's like very like hands-on learning, which they all really enjoy. But I think some of the time it's just having like the kind of the idea and the motivation to do it, but also my donation money from like fundraising events has provided the materials, because the baby's home is run on donations. So it doesn't have any spare money for like materials to make donuts with the children. It doesn't have, when I arrived, the teachers were running low on stationery supplies, but because the home doesn't have extra money, then it's hard, they could only get like a few things at a time. Yeah. Whereas they need paper, they need pens to teach the children, to do colouring with the children. So my donation money supported a lot of kind of incidental class purchases. So if we're doing an activity that needs something buying, we buy it with the donation money, as well as supporting like normal stationery needs, like buying the paper when the paper runs out. So that's making it possible, because before I think the teachers were very like wary of being too imaginative, because they didn't have the funds to buy those things. Yes. Yeah. But now but things are not that, and obviously they don't spend like lots of money, and most months we don't spend much at all. But for example, like in March they were learning about food, so we bought some different fruit and vegetables for them to look at and to try, and then we did the different cooking activities. But like, although we bought quite a few things, because of the exchange from like Ugandan shillings to pounds, it doesn't even add up to that much, but it makes the world of difference for them to be able to see what they're learning about, you know. Like when they were learning about a pepper, they'd always seen an apple, but they'd never seen a red pepper, because in Uganda, like green peppers are a lot cheaper. So a lot of the older children were quite adamant that the pepper was an apple, and we're like saying to the teacher, no, it's an apple. And then she was saying, no, this is a red pepper. But imagine trying to tell them that without even having the fruit or the vegetable in front of them, you know. So that's been like one of the major projects is class really. And also trying to get the children out of the home, which obviously has been a bit difficult since COVID came. But we've been since kind of December 2019, for those 4 months until the pandemic came, we were taking the older children out once a month to go swimming. There's like a local pool that the smaller pool is like a very shallow, like literally like this much water. So even the ones that have only just learned to walk, they can crawl around the water, they can splash, they can jump in, and there's, you know, it's very safe. And the first time we took them, it was kind of an experiment to see what happened, because they've gone on, like in the past, people have come and taken them on a trip, like a day trip somewhere, but it's very overwhelming for our children and they kind of too scared. And if there's been a pool, it's been quite deep, so they always have to be carried. And they weren't really getting much out of it. And before we went on the swimming trip, we've been trying to take them out. We'd gone to get ice cream somewhere. We'd gone to a place where there was a lake to walk around and just throw some balls and have a play. And when we noticed this swimming pool there, we thought, okay, let's see what this is like, because it's a nice quiet area. It's away from kind of the main crazy city, so the pollution's not as bad. Like you get better weather because there's not as much smog. The pool, the first time we went to the pool, we were all amazed. All of the staff were amazed because the children were just so happy. They were like, there was no one fighting over anything. They didn't need to fight for your attention because they just played. And then it was literally the talk of the home for weeks. So we decided, okay, let's make this a regular thing, because they get so much out of it. And like, there's a child that I'm quite close to that he got brain damage when he was younger. So he's got he's quite delayed and has got learning difficulties. And in class, I'd seen him kind of come alive in messy play. He like thrived on sensory and messy play. But in the main classroom, he was kind of very zoned out because there just wasn't much engaging him, because like he just kind of zoned out and didn't really interact. When we went swimming, everyone just sat back and watched him, because he was splashing, he was laughing, he was like crawling as fast as he could, and they'd never seen that side of him because he needed like that. He loves water, but they'd never been able to see it. So, and there's a lot of children in the same situation that maybe who don't thrive so much in the school because there's so many children, but as soon as they're doing something like water play, they just come alive. So that's another thing that we've like kind of put into place, and we're finally going back again next week, so we're very excited. Obviously it's been over a year, so a lot of the children have never been before, but that should be really fun, because if not, by the time they leave the baby's home, some of them have barely ever left the compound in their whole lives, and to go from being with the same staff, the same children all day, every day, to go into a new place that if they don't even know there's life outside of Sanyu, and then suddenly they get reunited to a family in the community, and that's that. So we try and get them out a bit more, so they are aware that there are other people that interact with them. And, there's other places you can eat food rather than the dining room at the baby's home, just things that when they do go home, they're a bit more ready to deal with all of the changes.
That all sounds absolutely amazing stuff.
Thank you.
I can just picture it all. It's you describe it so well. But you definitely have a love for what you're doing.
Yes, I think I've really enjoyed kind of being here long term and being able to see the children grow up.
Yes, you get that sense of the progression, don't you, and the impact
definitely
that you're having.
Because like in the past, I've only been here for 3 months, so like even if a baby came in as newborn, when they get to 3 months, they're a lot different to a newborn, but they still haven't kind of met any of their major milestones. Whereas I've seen babies come in as newborn, meet all of their milestones, and then go home with like a foster family or be reunited. And like we had 2 children leave just last week that when they arrived were very malnourished, were probably like the most malnourished children I've seen come to the home. And like over time they started to pick up and their confidence grew, because especially like one of them was very kind of shy. And they turned into very strong-willed children who were they were the bosses, even though they were only 2.5, they were the bosses of the home. And they got reunited last week, and it was amazing to see that. They was at the baby's home for like a year and 2 months, and to see that progression of the 2 scared like babies that came in to the 2 toddlers who just when they walked, they knew they were going home. They knew something was different because they were dressed up smartly, and they went towards the van with the driver and the social worker, and they were so excited, like they were ready to go. So to see that transition is really nice, because you can see like what the home actually does. You know, when you're there for a few weeks or like a month, you don't see the full extent of what the home does. But when, you know, it's been really nice to see the whole, like the full circle of children's cases.
Yeah. And Emily, how does your faith help you in what you're doing?
Say that again, sorry.
How does your faith help you in what you're doing?
I think it's helped me when I've been here, like when it's, especially I think when the pandemic kind of hit and I felt very like lonely, because like normally I'm so busy. And obviously the Babies Home is a Christian organisation. So kind of, you know, they have like a morning devotion every morning, and you know, a lot of the children's first words are singing, there's a baby Jesus song, that is literally probably the first thing we hear some of them say is sing the baby Jesus song, because it's part of their life. It's, you know, it's a but I think, and I've always kind of gone to church here. I did struggle when I started going to church here, because Uganda has some very different views on some things, and like especially like the URC does. But I think there's no church in Uganda that would fully think all the same things as the URC. So I did find a really good church actually, and one where I really enjoyed the music. And for me, music is a really big part of church for me, because our family has done a lot of the music. Like my family's very musical, and they've done a lot of like, when I was a child, my dad was the organist, and my mum and dad ran the music group in our first church. And then in our current church, my dad plays the organ every now and then. We have the church music group. So it's always been like, the music has been one of the biggest parts of church for me. So when I was looking for a church here, I did look for one where the music kind of connected to me the most, because it was never going to be the same. Like the lessons and the kind of takings from the readings read were never going to be exactly the same, because there's a very different kind of beliefs about some things in Uganda to compare to like in UK, but especially like URC. But so I'd like always attended church, and I'd always really enjoyed it. And then obviously when the pandemic hit, it like, I think that I struggled a bit then, especially when I was trying to work out what to do, because it was hard knowing that although I knew that there was no point going home, it still didn't make the decision kind of like easy, if you get me. Like I did miss, you know, and there was a lot of things going on at home, and I was like, well, shall I go home? But I knew that if I went home, that would probably be that. Like I wouldn't have been allowed back to Uganda for months and months and months. And actually, like the times when I felt like the most kind of relaxed and stuff was when we had, you know, when we had the Easter Sunday service at Sanyu, and normally we don't have that because the archbishops from the local cathedral, and because the Church of Uganda own, you know, the Babies Home. Normally they're doing the service in the cathedral, but because of lockdown, they weren't. So they came to the Babies Home, and we had that service. And actually, like that was there was just, you know, all of the staff that lived on site. So it was there was not many of us. It was actually a really nice, like that was kind of when I was like, okay, well, however long this pandemic goes for, like we've got everyone here. And like, obviously, like in Uganda, we had they have a lot of like, everyone sings and like drums and everything. And that was like, I think that was like when they were singing, there was one song we sang, Jehovah Has the Final Say. And that one, I think I've got a video of it, because I was trying to like, I wanted to remember some of these times, because like at the time, obviously, like it was just what we did, but I want to be able to remember after. And I think that was the service that I was like, okay, I can do this now. Like we've got all of us together, like we are, you know, we can carry on. But I think it has helped me. And especially since, I don't know when I started going to like the Zoom services from my church at home. I didn't start like straight away, because I was at the Babies Home and the Wi-Fi wasn't very good. Yeah. And kind of using data every Sunday would have drained my data and my bank balance a lot. Yeah. So I didn't do that. But actually going to like Zoom church, especially at Christmas, really helped, because like at Christmas, my family almost move into church. We do so much like over the Christmas period. And the year before, I think I'd really struggled with not being able to do that. So this year, obviously everyone was in the same boat in that things are very different. But because we still got to do things for church, and we got to like record things together, so I felt part of it. Yeah, that's really helped being part of Zoom church and seeing people that I know from, you know, I've known since I was younger, and like, and that have mentored me, and that, and you know, so I think having Zoom church has really helped, especially since, you know, we still don't know when people from home are coming. Then it's having that, like, you know, every Sunday to be able to look forward to that is really special, you know. So it's definitely helped me to kind of keep going and just stay kind of grounded and just be like, okay, well, it's going to be fine. I can get, if I've got this far, we can carry on, you know.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we're really sorry that it's not going to be practical to send you a Lundie medal, because our Lundie medal is a very special one. I shall show you, and then I shall eat it myself. So it comes in a presentation box. So you would have got this if you'd been in the UK, but I think the medal would have suffered in the post somewhat.
It would have, yeah.
So just take it from me, they are delicious, and I will think of you.
Enjoy it for me.
But we will be sending you it comes in a nice children youth work folder, but we have your certificate is here, which will be coming, which is the International Lundie Memorial Award, celebrating children and young people playing a part in a mission of God. So this certificate, along with a grant, was awarded by the Children and Youth Work Committee of the United Reformed Church to Emily Cheer for playing a significant part in the mission of God to their church, community, synod, or wider world. And that's then signed by Dr. Sam Richards and by the Reverend John Bradbury. So that will be on its way to you, I think, via your church, isn't it, coming, I think? Or is
I think either to my family or to my church, and then we'll work out how to get it. So
we'll give that for you and one for your church.
Cool.
On their notice board, which I'm sure they'll be very proud to display. And also we'll be sending a check.
Yes.
Probably not in check form, but we will be sending a donation, which I'm sure will be well used. I'm guessing you've probably got ideas for things that £100 can be spent on.
Definitely. I mean, it goes so far here because of the exchange between pounds and Ugandan shillings, and what, you know, things cost relatively cheap here compared to the UK, but obviously it's relative because people earn less here. So it's, but it means that the money from the UK goes quite far and does a lot. Like even for the swimming trips, that £100 can do like almost 50 swimming trips, which is crazy to think that much money, you know, it goes so far.
That's fantastic to know. So Emily, thanks so much for your time. It's been absolute delight to talk to you, actually. I wish I could get on a plane and fly out right now, but
I do like talking about Sanyu. I think it's one of the easiest things. Like if someone had wanted to interview me about, I don't know, or anything else, I'd be like quite nervous. Whereas like Sanyu, I could talk for years about Sanyu and like the different children and like, you know, all the different things that happen. So it's like I enjoy telling people about Sanyu and sharing that because kind of it is a very special place.